explanation. That's all I need to know.
It's taking a look at who the kids are. I mean, we don't get all the information for the next year until the summer. So looking at it now, we're like, I don't know what to do with all these.
So out of about 156 kids, 63 of those children are not passing MCAS as of right now.
English.
So maybe we need 3 teachers.
Right.
Well, I mean,
Happens when you have 28
I'll
kids in
accept,
class.
yeah, I mean, that's, I mean, if you guys feel we need it,
I would not come to you if I didn't feel comfortable
I
that
would,
we can cover the cost.
I'd move to recommend that the extra teacher be hired at the middle school to
Second.
fill that gap.
discussion,
I think we had enough.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I second.
Yeah, Dr. Colley, we're gonna go ahead and skip over to E, the Westport Middle School sports, that's okay.
I just wanted to clear and make sure the school committee gave clear direction. We went back and reviewed the notes, and we never took a vote, but there were a lot of different conversations going on when we were discussing the budget as to what stays, what goes, what to add, what not to add. At this point, we have set aside about $12,000, $12,060 dollars for middle school sports. At one point in time, we discussed many options to have the 8th graders play at the high school and then do intramurals, do just the same program we used to have and leave it alone, maybe add some money to it, or go ahead and switch over to intramurals, or do both at the same time. You know, I looked at it, depending on the number of intramurals, you could not have intramurals and competitive sports at the same time with that amount of money. Even if you went to a stipended position, I don't think you would attract people to take on coordinating both and, you know, the competitive side and the intramurals. Intramurals may have the advantage that allows more kids to participate because there are no cuts. If you have 100 kids want to play soccer, you divide it by teams of 10, you could have 10 clubs, 10 soccer clubs playing after school if you had enough people to be coaches and whatnot. Versus, hey, we're going to have competitive sports, you're going to have one team with maybe 15, 20 kids at the most, and you're going to have cuts. So I just wanted to get clear that we can't have both. Which way do you want to go?
Did the process of getting the waiver for the 8th graders to play at the high school,
I haven't put it forward because I was waiting for this.
so we don't even know whether you would get the waiver?
The waiver is filled out, we just haven't submitted it. But you couldn't have the waivers in competitive sports, you would have to have the waivers so the 8th graders could play up here, and then you could not have, in addition to that, the competitive sports, you would have to go to an intramural type
Mr.
sport.
Larrabee?
Make a motion to keep middle school sports as they were last year as a competitive sport. I did some rough little numbers on buses, this and that, and what we charge for fees and what we've had put aside. I think we're able to do it. I make a motion that we keep middle school sports at competitive at the Mayflower League middle school level,
The way they were.
the way they were.
Second,
Second.
discussion?
The only question I have on, we've got $12,000 in the budget this year. I was just looking at, what was our amount last year?
I thought it was 15. So they
It
should-
was 15 for the, basically just for the coordination person for the AD. Depending on where we set the stipend, because we're not going to go with an AD or we'll go with a part-time AD. We're put it out there. We posted it as a .2 We'll see if we get anybody. If not, hopefully we'll get somebody who's willing to do it as a stipend and maybe a per-season stipend, so somebody coordinates fall sports, somebody coordinates spring, somebody coordinates the fall, and then maybe we can set a little bit of money aside to actually put money for supplies and uniforms and whatnot. Or we can, depending on who we get that applies and says, I'll do the .2, but I'll do it for 10,000, we can take 2,000 and put it towards supplies and those kind of things.
Mike?
Just the follow-up question, and I'm speaking in support of the motion that's on the table, is that we, monitor our costs, what's budgeted for, and we might want to take advantage of being part of the league and check with some of the other like-sized towns that are in that Mayflower League and see how they handle the administrative component of their middle school sports. It may be something that fits under the building supervisor's duties. Again, it's streamline and efficiency. I don't know how much work there is to it, but if we're cutting out, the athletic director's role in that, or it still fits under him, depending on, I don't think there was a drastic savings. I'm in
That
favor
was
of
our
that
hope.
motion.
That was our hope, to put it out, see if somebody wanted it as a small side job, part-time job. And if not, yeah, it would probably be a lot of the responsibilities falling on the office and then perhaps a stipend for somebody to help out. Because it is a lot of hours in addition to whatever job anybody has. So if it's a teacher who's helping and doing it as a stipend, or, the assistant principal, you're talking adding, going to practices, going to games, supervising the coaches, making arrangements for buses.
Is it eligible that a coach take on that additional role?
I would not do it if it's a coach in the same season,
Yeah.
because they couldn't be playing a game and going to supervise the other game that may be, at another town. But I could see somebody with some experience with sports doing it, like if I don't know, I'll use soccer because I used to coach soccer. If I'm a soccer coach, can I supervise the winter sports, basketball or spring soccer, baseball and softball? I could see somebody doing that.
Any other comments?
Remember where in the budget that position is?
I'm
Do you
sorry.
remember where in the budget you stuck that position at?
It was actually, it was, right now, we're sticking it in a little bit in supplies, because we do realize we need some
District
supplies.
as in supplies?
Right. There was a line in there, they didn't have any money for the last however many years. It's been just floating around in the budget. We never used it. And then we were going to put the rest of the money into an administrative type line.
Ready to vote, Eric?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, in the future, if there's a couple of $1,000s laying around that we save from, every year they come in front of us, telling us how they need this, that, and the other. Okay, all right, so approval of policies. These are policies that the policy subcommittee has gone through.
Mr. Chair?
Somebody want to make a motion to approve all of them?
I'd make a motion to approve all, except I just want a clarification on the GC, I lost my page on it. Just wondering why,
GCF?
yeah, it's just why something's, we don't have that going throughout the whole thing, GCF. There's some bold print, and we don't use bold print in anything else. I'm just wondering, was that added, subtracted? Why is it bold and other stuff's red and black and normal?
This was a brand-new thing that came from MASC.
Still in
Apparently, when they added the gender identity piece, which is one of those that went throughout, they wanted to add that to all the, we also noticed that MASC had added this. I know you did this, because I was part of the screening committee, And we tend to do it anyway. We ask the principals, for example, to get a committee together of perhaps a parent or a teacher, other people, not just them doing the hiring or the interviewing piece. So we do this. So I said, hey, MASC caught on that this is a good idea. They put it into their sample policy. So we said, not a bad idea. I mean, we'd do it anyway. But I think it's so for example, if you ever needed another superintendent, hopefully not for a while, but if you ever needed a new superintendent, you should have a community
That's right.
committee from different parts of the community that would help you and say, hey, this is what we want in a superintendent, to advise you. At the end of the day, you still have to make the decision.
So, just to follow up on that, that's all good. I know we've had lots of talk about it last year. If someone at the West or at the MAC or at the high school if the building administrator wants to hire, are they sending names to you, or are they sending one name to you?
For the most part, they're sending one name.
Most part, that makes me think that there's parts that aren't.
Sometimes they say, hey, I'm sending you 2 people. I think both of them will work. See what you want to do, interview them, let me know.
Okay.
So it's more of a, we're collaborating with each
So
other.
we've gotten away from that practice of sending you 3 names and you pick which one.
At this point, if they want to send me one, the worst that could happen is if the person is not qualified, or I find that there's something that I can't agree with, I may send it back and say, okay, that one's not going to work, pick
Well, that
another
was the
one.
whole purpose of ed reform, to put it back into the building, and you just make sure they have their qualifications and that they pass their queries and sign their W-4s and do everything. Okay, very good.
So motion to approve,
Motion to approve the policies numbered 1 through 12 with all their alphabet soup.
Second.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, guys, I'm sorry, but we're gonna skip down again to, we're gonna go down to the
The
approval of the landscaping at the tennis courts. Paul, you wanna? Sorry, Paul, I thought you were here for,
You stick around?
Paul Oliver. I was asked last minute kind of to represent the Diane Schneider Tennis Association. There's a couple of scheduled conflicts with a couple of the people that wanted to be here, couldn't make it, so. They have 2 projects slated for the tennis courts that, with your approval, they'd like to move forward with. The first being they'd like to put up a backboard, which would go in be the northwest corner of the courts. And for those of you not familiar with the backboard, I think it's like a 10 by 20 backboard, expense of about $8,000. It's a backboard is a huge
With a line.
with the line. It's a great development tool for people new at tennis, where you can just go by yourself and hit the ball around. So, ideally, if things maybe that project would expand later, we're moving the backboard outside the fence and putting another area of pavement. But right now, financially, they can afford the backboard. Like I said, the backboard itself costs about $8,000, so it'd be put inside that corner of the fence. So that's the first project they'd like to move forward with. And the second project they'd like to move forward with is